Surajat Marbury on ITV every Thursday night, 8 to 9 on ieSPORTS Digest, a comprehensive roundup of all sports, local, regional, and international. We will reach out to our villages and our communities in all areas of Trinidad and Tobago to highlight their sporting activities. I'll also invite prominent guests to share their views and address current issues facing sports, focusing on realistic solutions. Join me on ITV.
ieSPORTS Digest, Thursdays at 8 p.m. right here on IETV.
Hi, pleasant good afternoon, good night really, and welcome once again to IETV Sports Digest. And remember, we always live also on IETV Facebook. So if you are not around by your TV, you can still join us there, even though our guests overseas, and I know we have some. Log on to your IETV Facebook and be with us for the next hour as we look at sports. First a roundup, and then I'll introduce my guest today as very special guest. A lot of celebration in the air for the topic that we are discussing today. Let's start off with some cricket, and as we know that after a lot of visa issues, finally the India and West Indies team have made it to Florida. It's amazing that in this day and age, after so long in preparation, and these events were planned long ahead, that 2 days before you're scrambling and you have to get the president of Ghana to assist you to get visas. It's wonder sometimes what our administrators are busy doing. Anyway, they are in Florida, and those games are set for Saturday and Sunday. India lead the series 2-1, and I was very proud of our West Indies team in that second game. They came back really strongly, excellent victory, but again struggled in the third game. It's hopefully things will improve as we go along. Remember, we are preparing for the Cricket T20 World Cup, and we need to get our act together and get the best team possible out in the middle, which is another issue. In the Windward Islands, were victorious in the CWI Regional Under 17 tournament. Remember, that completed last week in Trinidad and Tobago. It's a tournament that Trinidad has historically done pretty well, but this year we're not so lucky. The weather also played a severe role in that tournament, restricting a number of games. In the end, they settled for some 50 overs and some T20 games, and the Windward Islands ended as champion of the tournament. Grenadian Devonnie Joseph was the MVP of the tournament, probably a name to look forward in the future for West Indies cricket. That's where it all starts, 15, 17, 19, and then we move on. We have the A-team game that started today. For those of you who are following, West Indies A-team versus Bangladesh in Warner Park, no, in St. Lucia, sorry. So that's on as well. And coming up soon, we'll have the regional on the 15 and CWI regional on the 19 tournament. So all our young stars are very busy out there preparing themselves for these tournaments. As I said, it's the pathway to the West Indies team. From that regional on the 17 tournament, I understand that a group of guys are going to be selected to begin training for the Boys Under 19 World Cup, which is in 2 years ago, so 2 years into the future. So hopefully some of our guys from Trinidad will get into that squad for that training. And that note as well, the girls who are selected from the CWI Under 19 tournament, they are also preparing for the first ever World Girls Under 19 Cricket World Cup. They are off to Florida. We have 6 Trinidadians on that team. They are off to Florida, and that squad is in preparation. Out of that squad, the final team will be selected for the Girls Under 19 World Cup. I wish all the girls the best, especially our young Trinidad and Tobago cricketers. Coming up soon as well, and I know a lot of you are eagerly anticipating. Some probably bought their tickets already. First, we'll have the 60-ball tournament, the first of its kind in the Caribbean that CWI is having, and that will be followed by CPL. And CPL starts on the 31st of August. The 60-ball tournament starts on the 24th at Warner Park in St. Kitts. And this year, remember, we have the women's and men's CPL. And of course, I'm sure, as I said, a lot of you have already go on online and get your tickets for the games in Trinidad and Tobago to support our local boys. And we have a very, very good squad this year coming out of Trinidad. Some real power in that squad with Andre Lawrence, Andre Russell, and so on joining us for the first time. So we look forward to that. Remember, the finals are in Ghana this year. Moving on to some football news, we know the Ascension tournament that we were following in this program that has been completed. And the winners are La Horquita Rangers, champions for 2022. The second place was Defense Force, and the third was Police FC. So La Horquita was able to put all these army men and police in their place and keep them at bay. Congratulations to La Horquita. The European Football Women's Tournament also completed. A fantastic final for those of you who were able to look at it. The level of women's football was fantastic. I saw some of the games and I was quite impressed with the quality of the games. I think the world was taken by surprise. I think even from listening to the English commentators, you know, they have always seen soccer, football in England as a men game, and I think they were given a rude awakening by the quality and the standard. And England went on to win that final 2-1 against Germany. And thousands of supporters gathered at Trafalgar Square to celebrate that victory by England. It was a massive celebration there in London. For those of you, that's a very large square. It was packed with people who came out to support the women. And Beth Mead, English player, was the player of the tournament, and she also won the Golden Boot. For those of you who know, the Golden Boot is for who scored the most goals in the tournament, and that person was Beth Mead, an English player. So congratulations to England. And by the way, as I said, that the importance of women in sports and women's sports, and since 1966, England has not won any silverware in football. This is the first victory for them, and it came through their women footballers. So it's their first victory in World Cup football since 1966. So that's why I guess the celebration was even more than normal. Moving on to the Tour de France, is something we have been following here. I know the women's version has started, but Jonas Vingegaard, who was leading all along, kept that lead and was able to be the champion for 2022. Pogacar came in second and Geraint Thomas third. In athletics, we know the Commonwealth Game is on. For those of you who have been following, this is also happening in Birmingham, England. And a lot of performances from Caribbean players and even from Trinidad and Tobago especially. One of which I'll leave for later in this program, but just to bring you up to date that in a number of events we had very successful performances, and compliments to all the athletes who took part in that. In the athletics, we had a number of our runners who went on as far as the semi-final. Unfortunately, Michelle Liahi was not able to repeat. She lost in the semi-final and didn't make it to the final. Dylan Carter placed fourth in the men's 50-meter freestyle swimming event. And as I said, we had some very successful other athletes who performed, but I want to leave that for a little later. But generally, I think it was not a bad Commonwealth Games for us. We saw some good performances. It's something that we need to, coming out of last year's, the last Olympics. We thought we would have done better, but COVID would have put back some of our athletes, and we are hoping that they will keep improving as we go along, and coming out of the Commonwealth Games, that a little more effort, a little more assistance will come forward for our athletes so that we can keep improving in terms of bringing home some more medals for us here in Trinidad and Tobago. Of course, one athlete again rose to the fore. Five-time Olympic medalist Elaine Thomas-Hira took her first Commonwealth gold medal, continuing a fantastic career. So a lot of sports still happening around, a lot still going on. You can follow them all. Again, we'll keep you up to date here on ieSPORTS Digest as we move along. And I want to come back to the one I mentioned earlier. And for Trinidad and Tobago this week in the Commonwealth Games, we had some fantastic success, and it especially came in the sport of cycling. For those of you who followed the game, you would have known that we had one cyclist, one athlete who brought us, I think it's the first time in the history of the game, 3 medals to Trinidad and Tobago. 1 gold in the curling event, 1 silver in the sprint final where he lost, unfortunately, the ride-off, and bronze in the 1 kilometer time trial. And I'm speaking of no other than Nicholas Paul, Trinidad and Tobago cyclist, 3 gold medal. Congratulations to Nicholas, fantastic achievement. And following, in the tradition of, we have had from my days growing up when I was small, I will never forget that we have had some fantastic cyclists coming out of Trinidad and Tobago. Who will ever forget Richard Gibbons, first Olympic medalist, first Commonwealth medalist, and so on, gold medalist. We would have had Leslie King, Jean Samuel, Michael Phillips, and of recent note, Gisane Phillip. So we have always had cyclists who have made us proud, who has represented us on the world stage, at Olympics, at Commonwealth Games, at Pan American Games, at World Championship. We have always had cyclists taking Trinidad to the front, making us well known, make our name Trinidad and Tobago known worldwide. And if you watch on the TV there, you'll see very soon we'll get some highlights of those victories by Nicholas Paul. And Nicholas Paul is the latest one to take us to that level worldwide. Also, Tennille Campbell, one of our first female cyclists to compete in the Commonwealth Road Cycling event, placed 7th today out of 36 in the women's individual time trial. A fantastic achievement and highest achievement for any Caribbean rider. Tennille Campbell. This name has been around for a while. You would have heard of her last year Olympics, and she is coming on very strongly. She's also a national road time trial champion. So we see that while the names I called before, mostly male cyclists, we are getting there now where we are seeing that the female cyclists are coming to the fore. And as we take a look, as I said, at that victory there by Nicholas Paul, as I said, 1 bronze, 1 silver, 1 gold. So this evening, joining me on the program, someone who should be a very happy person, the president of the Trinidad and Tobago Cycling Federation, Ms. Rowena Williams. Pleasant good night and welcome, Rowena.
Thank you very much. Good night.
And thanks for taking the time off to spend some time with us here on IETV.
My pleasure.
Right. So tell me, how does it feel?
I want to say I'm very elated, and I'm very, very happy to see what cycling could do to young people and how it can bring out the best in them. And I think Nicholas has proven that once you stay focused and you stay true to what your goals are, the sky is the limit. The sky is the limit. And I am really, really happy to see the performances of all the cyclists that went out to the Commonwealth Games. Whilst only Nicholas would have medaled, I think all the cyclists, they performed at their best, and they must be acknowledged for the performances going forward. And I really want to say congratulations to them.
Thank you, because also in that event in the curling,
we had Kwesi Brown.
Kwesi Brown came
in sixth.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's like that. I mean, for viewers, just to make it to the final, or just to make it to the games to start with, to get the qualification time and so on necessary, and then to get into the finals or the semi-final or finals, a fantastic achievement. It requires, when you look at the Commonwealth Games, by the way, let me just add for those of you, our viewers, who are not aware what the Commonwealth Games is. The Commonwealth Games started in 1930, and it's mostly made up of former British territories, but it has been expanded over time to include some non-former British territories. I think the last 2 members to join, Gabon and someone else, were really French territories, but it's basically former English territories called the Commonwealth of Nations, and it started in 1930. So when someone competes in the Commonwealth Game, you are one of 2.5 billion people in the world who are eligible to compete in that game. And for you to get there, it means that from that 56 nations who make up the Commonwealth. They all send representatives. And they all, it's a launching pad for athletes, just as we have the World Championship and you want to get to the Olympics and we have the Pan Am Games. The Commonwealth Games is a measure of your ability to move up and to gauge yourself against some of the best in the world. So the Commonwealth Games is very important. It's not easy to get there. The competition is stiff, as I said. Here, Elaine Thomas here won her first gold, you know. And it's something that people look forward to. It's an opportunity for you as an athlete to measure yourself against the best. And as I said, it's very competitive, very high standard. So that's what the Commonwealth Games is. So it's very important that for athletes, when they achieve at this level, you know, that it's recognized for the great amount of work and effort that goes into it. So just as I said, for these like Nicholas and then Tenniel to reach there and to reach at that level, it's fantastic. And I think Tenniel is also going to ride on another event tomorrow.
She has the road race on Sunday.
Okay.
Sunday. And, you know, all our athletes that went out there, I mean, the Commonwealth Games is seen as a mini Olympics. I mean, to get to the Commonwealth Games, it's always a huge achievement. It comes every 4 years, and again, it's something that you had to be prepared for, and you see it as our next Olympics. Yeah. You know, so it is a very, very important milestone for any athlete to get there, any athlete to want a medal out there, and it, as you rightfully said, it gauges your performer, gauges you where you're going to go next for the next Olympic, and I think our cyclists. I am very, very proud of the performances and where they have gone from coming out of 2 years of nothing happening in Trinidad and Tobago, coming out of the pandemic. It's so, you know, I don't know how to put it, but the cyclists have really, really put out their best.
Okay.
And we have to acknowledge that.
We do. Recognition is very important, and rewards
Yes.
for achievement like these, because I mean, you know, when we achieve at the Olympics, rewards come our way, but I think the powers that be need to realize that these things are just as important, and rewards along the way, recognition, assistance in terms of training, stipend, whatever is necessary to keep our athletes going.
Correct. Sometimes we don't understand some I would want to say the corporate Trinidad don't understand the efforts that is required by the athletes to really go out there and perform. When we see athletes out there and the sacrifices that they make, because Nicholas had to be away from his home to be in UCI, to be in Switzerland for all this time to be able to produce what he did. And it is not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing living this life outside of everything else, because it's part of you. Yeah. It becomes part of you, and a lot of athletes are not able to get there because they have to feed their families. They have to. It's a full-time job. Being an athlete is a full-time job, and how do they get to be that show that potential without the assistance of others and corporate Trinidad and everybody seeing the potential and putting out that? And you know, we really need to do better as a country, as a society. How can we help bring the athletes out the way they're supposed to?
Very much so, and that should lead off to the discussion in terms of cycling. Well, you were there as president previously.
2010.
Yeah, 2010 to 2014.
Correct.
And then you came back.
In 2021.
So you have been around cycling for a while. You saw the need to come back. But cycling, unlike, let's say, the major sports, cricket, football, and athletics and so on in Trinidad, which is played in school.
Yeah.
We don't have school cycling.
No.
So how do you get into cycling? I know it's clubs, but as a youngster growing up,
the federation is made up of a club structure.
Okay.
So the clubs are the ones that make up the federation. The clubs are the ones that go out there and bring in the talent, go out there and scout the talent. What the federation does is to have youth programs. We have just established a relationship with the scouts, TT, to have programs run through the scout and in their districts to start up that program. We used to have areas where we had some cycling in schools. but you know, we don't have the infrastructure in the schools to have it. So what we do, like for instance, there's a club in Arima that runs a Saturday program, and that started off as a adopt a school program where they adopted a school from within the Arima area, and the kids will come on a Saturday and do cycling in the velodrome. But of course, you have to have the facility to do it. Right. And not all over Trinidad, they're tracks.
Right. So we'll come to that just now because we're going to go on a short break. So let's go on a break and we'll be back with you.
Yeah.
Hi, join me, Surajat Marbury on ITV every Thursday night, 8 to 9 on ieSPORTS Digest, a comprehensive roundup of all sports, local, regional and international. We will reach out to our villages and our communities in all areas of Trinidad and Tobago to highlight their sporting activities. I'll also invite prominent guests to share their views and address current issues facing sports, focusing on realistic solutions. Join me on ITV.
ieSPORTS Digest, Thursdays at 8 p.m. right here on IETV.
Welcome back, and as we come back, of course, let's start off by thanking our sponsors, Lazare and Sampson Travel Service Limited. As I said, our very first sponsor on ITV Sports Digest. Thank you very much to Lazare and Sampson. We truly appreciate your support for this program as we seek to highlight sports in Trinidad and Tobago and by extension to our Caribbean athletes as well, and afford opportunities for our sports people to have a say and really sell themselves to the public, and how we can work together as one, as Ms. Williams was just saying, to enhance our athletes and provide opportunities to them. So thank you, Lazare and Sampson, again. Yeah, so we spoke about the fact that it's clubs, and well, I'm not sure how many clubs it have, but I guess it's spread out throughout Trinidad and Tobago.
Correct.
And one of the major concerns was that even if you go to schools, they don't have facilities. And even if you look at facilities, and I want to get to that, where we could chat a little bit on that, because I remember that we used to have Skinner Park. We used to have what was the Tesoro Velodrome, then called the JP Smalls Velodrome, and then in Palaseco Velodrome, and that was a concrete. Skinner Park was asphalt.
Yeah.
I think they used to race in Guaracara too, in grass.
We had Guaracara. We had in I came down on there that
yeah.
I can't remember the name of the park now. Yeah, in the back there.
Okay. And then
Constantine
Park. Yes, I remember Constantine Park. And the Oval.
The Oval.
We used to have racing. So a lot of those facilities are not used for cycling anymore.
Well, the Oval is now totally cricket.
Yeah.
Skinner Park is refurbishing, and we do hope to have that track back. I understand that the deadline to completion is November this year.
What type of track are you
It's now going to be a 333 track.
Okay.
It's similar to the size in Siparia now.
Okay.
Siparia now has a 333 track.
Okay.
And then we still have Arima Velodrome,
right,
which is close to 500 meters. And then we have the new indoor velodrome,
which is one of the best in the Caribbean.
Correct.
And at least we have some facilities. We have lost some, but some are being replaced, and we still have some.
Definitely.
So that at least that's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, we want to make sure that we use the facilities. We want to make sure we use the facilities. It's just, it's sad that maintenance of the facilities is always an issue, and we would want to plead with the powers that be to ensure that these things are maintained. Because I mean, for instance, we are having our youth track championships this weekend.
Okay.
And we had planned to use the Siparia track. The maintenance of the track is not there. The track is not ready, and we have to resort to going back to going to Arima. Now, luckily, we have the access to go to Arima. We have the relationship with the borough. We continue to have events in Arima, but we would like to also give opportunities
and spread the cycling around.
Correct, so that we get other people who can't travel or traverse so far to still have the ability to see what is out there.
Because for the sport to grow, you want to be able to reach out to the communities.
Correct.
And I mean, going to Siparia would be fantastic. A lot of great athletes have come out. Siparia, Point Fortin has been churning out athletes, and that has died off, really died off over the years. It's a sore point for me that southwestern region of the country, our footballers, our athletes, a lot came from that area, and I guess it's something that I think it's something that has to be addressed in terms of opportunities and facilities in those areas.
Correct, and I want to say one of the other areas that has been lacking in those abilities in Tobago.
Okay.
Because we don't have any track in Tobago, and it's something that we need to work on.
Absolutely none?
None.
Well,
And we have a lot of talent in Tobago, so I think we need to focus on that area also.
That is, I mean, to me, I didn't realize that, but that's totally unacceptable. How can you have an whole island and you want to develop sports, and in the year 2022 you don't have a single cycle track, and the amount of money spent, I mean, in Tobago, and we have people in Tobago, in THA, who have been involved in sports over the years, and I have worked with THA in cricket on a number of occasions. It has been very good, but I think it's something that I think I'm giving you that as one of your
my KPIs
for as president before you come to this term. You need to get to Tobago, get to THA, get Mr. Farley and Duke, and say, hey, we want a cycle track in Tobago. Make it happen. How can we develop? How happen?
Yes, Tobago is one of the areas that we have to definitely focus on. We have what we have in Tobago currently. There's 2 clubs in Tobago, and there's one club specifically who is working really hard on building the mountain bike area.
Okay.
And I think that they have a great program going on there.
Yeah.
And I want to help promote that more. But we also need to develop in the different disciplines.
And as we get into that, for the viewers out there, what are the different areas of cycling we have?
Okay, so cycling is made up of at least 8 disciplines. We in Trinidad and Tobago only concentrate so far on 4 of them. So we have the track, we have road, we have mountain bike, and there's BMX freestyle.
Okay.
We have to build on the areas of cyclocross and all these different there's artistic cycling, there's cycleball, there's also paracycling. So you have track paracycling, you have road paracycling. So all these different elements of cycling that fall under the federation that we have to still build on.
Yeah. But the one that we focus on are road and track and the outdoors.
Mostly, and because of our ability to not use the road the way we're supposed to, not being able to use the road safely, most of our cyclists gravitate to track, and that's where our success is.
And that's another area that we can move into discussion: road riding and the constraints and the dangers. Because I'm honest, if my child was a cycling and had to ride on our roads with the type of drivers we have, the type of roads we have, I don't know, they will have to ride here, and I have to drive a big Mack truck next to them to make sure nobody knocks them down. And just recently we saw around the Savannah when Mr. Geoffrey
Harris and Mr. Anthony Harris.
And Anthony Harris lost their lives, unfortunately. It's so how do you all cope with that?
We're working hard at it. We're working to continuously engage in, well, I should say, education awareness. We recently had an awareness ride where we tried to promote, safe riding, road safety, as well as awareness to let the public know that cyclists still have access to the road also. They are lawfully,
yes, entitled
to use the roads. And it's just a matter of us sharing the road. It's easier access to get to where you want to go without using gas, without have to pay these high gas prices. So a lot of the people in these cars could come out and ride a bike and save some gas, because we protest about the gas prices going up.
Very high.
We made a lot of noise about it. So there's an alternative of riding a bike. But we tend to see it as inconvenience. The cyclist is blocking them. Why the cyclists don't come on the road? Even when we have events, we can't block the road. We can't. Ideally, to have an event, we should have a free road.
Exactly.
But we don't. We don't shut down roads in Trinidad.
No.
So we have to get the moving public, the public to understand that we have an event going on. That, you know, give the cyclists some leeway.
But for road use, you have to get, whenever you have an event, whenever a cyclist wants to use the road, do they have to get permission from the police, or can they use it?
Well, the cyclists can use it. There are certain areas that they have access to, and there are certain places where there's limits. But once we having events, we have to get police permission. Okay. So we would get the police permission, and we would have the police escorts with us. Yes.
But even so, I mean, with the police escorts, it's still, remember, it will be spread out because of the difference in ability and the competition. So it's
still dangerous.
It's still dangerous, and as I said, you know, it's still, I mean, to the public out there, you still need to recognize that, as we said, they have access to the roadway just as you, not because you are driving, but cycling is allowed in Trinidad and Tobago. And as Rowena said, you know, in a lot of countries around the world, especially close to the cities where people live and work close to the cities, cycling is encouraged, and people are encouraged to cycle to work, to ride a bike instead of jumping in a vehicle and driving around. But in Trinidad and Tobago, it's not something we practice. As I say, it's a scare as well for a lot of people. They're afraid. I mean, even in the countryside, long time, you will see a lot of people cycling around, moving around. Now
the smoker man used to use his bicycles, and now they want to knock down the smoker man.
Exactly.
He can't use the
so
bicycle
now
anymore.
People are actually, you know, scared to actually go out there and ride, because you always, it's something you always hear someone getting knocked down or something, because we are not careful. We don't regard the cyclists, and it's something that probably, you know, when they're reviewing laws in terms of punishment for traffic offenses, probably they need to look at when cyclists are interfered with in terms of accidents and so on, probably increase fines, punishment, so that people will be a little more careful.
One of the things we need to work on in terms of the laws is really to have the police do the investigations faster, because sometimes what you see is that the accident or whatever took place, but because it's not a murder, it's not considered a serious offense that to warrant my time spending on investigation on this matter. And I think that is and I hope I'm wrong in my perception, but that's my perception of how things happen, and we need to work on that. Every incident that happened, it doesn't matter, it's considered serious.
Exactly.
And should be considered
and should be dealt with adequately and efficiently, and, you know, as quick as possible. Because I do know, for example, around the savannah, there's a dedicated cycling lane. The boardwalk in Carenage. And I was just told also that the Diego Martin Highway on a Sunday morning.
On a Sunday, Michael Phillip has early morning exercise. It's blocked off that whole highway for people to come and exercise, walk, run, ride, different things. And I think, you know, it does well for the community. It's something that Michael and I had spoken some time back of how we can bring it down to south and spread it around the different areas. But again, accessibility and allowing the powers that be to understand to buy into it is something we have to work on.
A lot of cyclists use the Brian Lara Cricket Academy, that piece of road there.
And they complain now because when they open it up to the public with the cars fly down through there now. So it's no longer safe. They used to use it and had no problem. It was really, really comfortable for the cyclists to actually train and exercise and everything, and then they open it up to the public. Again, we end up in the same problem.
So as you say, but Michael wanted, and I saw him recently talking about, again, he's always outspoken about cycling, wanting to spread what is happening in Diego Martin. That's an area that, okay, you can say, okay, that Brian Lara Road could be easily closed on a Sunday morning. Because there is alternative access. You don't need to use that road on a Sunday morning. What it does during the week is it helps with the traffic but on a Sunday morning, there isn't any traffic. So it's something that you can look at approach.
Well, we use it for events.
Yeah.
We use it for our national, just recently we had national time trial there. That's where Tennille won her national champion title as the time trialist. We use it as a time trial route.
Okay.
Another area that is starting up recently, within the last 2 weeks, the Caroni by the licensing office in Caroni there.
Okay.
That roundabout there, we have some cyclists who have started a program there on a Tuesday night. Where they're gonna, of course, have the police engage in helping them
to direct the traffic and control the traffic.
But we want to promote wellness also. We want to promote healthy lifestyles, and it could only be done through these efforts.
Exactly, and cooperation.
Yes.
So coming back to we had started a discussion on how to get involved in cyclists. So to the public, the youngster out there, how you want to become a cyclist, you love cycling, you want to take up cycling. What's the process?
Well, again, you get in contact with the Cycling Federation, and we will put you on to one of the clubs that is closest in the area with anybody, because we have clubs. We have 22 clubs registered with the Federation right now. There are also casual clubs. So we have clubs that don't really do competition.
Right, for fun.
But they do it for fun, they do it for healthy lifestyle. We have casual clubs, and we could introduce them to these clubs so that you can choose. If it's in Central, there's two Central clubs. There are clubs in Arima, there's clubs in West, there's clubs in the South. So they spread all across. So if they get in contact with the Federation, our Facebook page, our Instagram page, we're on social media, and we definitely will help put on anybody. And of course, with the Scouts program, the children also get Scout badges.
Okay.
So it goes towards their getting their Scout badges, as well as, getting into cycling.
Okay, great. So at least there is a route for them to take,
Yes.
attached to a club, and then you move on. And as we said before, you could probably go back to targeting the schools, because post-COVID, a lot of kids have dropped sports. And even those who want to get involved have been restrained in the fact that we have taken a while to get sports going in school. There has been no cricket so far. Football was here in this program. They are hoping to kick off. The other sports like netball, traditional sports are also there. So as you mentioned, if like these clubs in the areas, if they can
touch base with
the schools, from primary schools, secondary schools, and share this information and probably have like an open day. Let's say we spoke of Siparia. Let's say that the person with the club in Siparia say, okay, go to Siparia West, Siparia East Secondary, Irie High School, the primary schools in the area, Palo Seco Secondary, and say, look, this Sunday morning from 9 to 11, we having a fun ride at Owen Park, Siparia. So get parents, bring your bike, come take a ride. It doesn't matter what kind of cycle you have, what kind of bike you have. Just come ride. Let's see what you can do.
Fun.
Join the club, have some fun, and then we move on. Or as you say, if you can get like outside Brian Lara, and you do the same thing for schools in San Fernando, and possibly then you might get some more kids moving into the sports of cycling and
so
being able to go to sports.
Definitely, I think that's a great idea. And we also have a kids camp coming up from the 8th of August, which is next week, for 2 weeks. So that we're going to encourage children to come to the camp and teach them to ride, and these kind of things. So we have a 2-week camp. And I think, that also would help us in terms of building allowing the kids to come out and just see what cycling is about.
Great. Let's go into another break. We'll be back with you shortly. Hi, join me, Surajat Marbury, on ITV every Thursday night, 8 to 9 on ieSPORTS Digest, a comprehensive roundup of all sports, local, regional, and international. We'll reach out to our villages and our communities in all areas of Trinidad and Tobago to highlight their sporting activities. I'll also invite prominent guests to share their views and address current issues facing sports, focusing on realistic solutions. Join me on ITV.
ieSPORTS Digest, Thursdays at 8 p.m. right here on IETV.
Welcome back again to ieSPORTS Digest. Again, thank you to our sponsors, Lazare and Sampson Travel Services Limited. We can never say, ever give enough thanks to sponsors in anything, especially when it comes to sports. So Lazare and Sampson Travel Service, thank you very much. And as you'll find out soon, as we continue discussion, as probably mentioned here before, sometimes you find, you hear people say that there's not money in sports, and you go out there and you turn on your TV and you see CPL or you see Olympics going on and you see plenty of money being spent and you see big corporations spending billions of dollars. But that's not what the problem is, because everybody wants to be in the limelight. The problem is to find money for development in sports. We cannot have athletes without development. You cannot have a 100-meter Olympic champion or a Commonwealth champion, or a champion CPL team or a champion West Indies team if they did not start from somewhere and start from under 7, under 12, under 13, under 15. And what you find being out there a lot is that this is where you don't get the sponsorship. This is where our people out there, and I'm not talking about sponsorship just from the corporate body, I'm talking about government, need to know that if we don't engage the kids from small, if we don't put a large part of our budget on development, we can never have the best in the world. We can always jump on the highlight and look for, you know, a snapshot with if Usain Bolt turn up in Trinidad and Tobago, people spend $1 million just to go and give him something and get a picture, you know. But that $1 million could have developed 1,000 athletes. But it doesn't matter, does it? Because you didn't get a picture with a little boy from down in Cedros. Well, one day he might be the next Usain Bolt, you never know. And that picture, you could go and pull it out. I'd be worth $1 million then. So the problem is that we need to find ways for people who have the wherewithal, and governments I'm speaking about too, to understand that development starts with the youngsters in the primary and secondary school. That's why I just went to the discussion that even in the cycling, if we want to get the cycling to grow, we have to go to the schools, we have to get the kids out. But for them to get out, it costs money. Because even if Ms. Williams and the Cycling Federation want to have an event, as we mentioned, let's say by Brian Lara or in Arima Velodrome on a Sunday morning, and you are asking parents to bring the kids out, there is a cost attached to it. Because you have to provide refreshment, you have to provide the facilities, you have to provide people to do the work. And I mean, if kids are there, you don't know where they're coming from, you might want to give them a little snack afterwards or some Gatorade to keep them going. So everything costs money. So it's not like just saying, okay, invite them out and we're going to have something. So with that in mind, Ms. Williams, Rowena, how does cycling stand in Trinidad in terms of sponsorship?
I want to say that it's very difficult. We are still fighting up to see where we could really get the corporate to invest more into the cycling. And I think we have been doing a okay job so far within this year in having the corporate TNT come on board with us. The one thing that I have been working on since taking office is we have a big debt behind us that we need to clear up, and that is taking a lot out of what needs to get done, because when you have the debt to pay off, then we have to fix that part first before I actually can move to doing the work of the Federation. So that has been a major stumbling block for the Federation within this year and last year. And it's something that I'm still working on, because we want to make sure that we do good and still pay off our debts while still have programs running for the youths, programs running for the elites, have high performance. I mean, one of the things that we aren't able to do right now is bring in a national coach, because since Erin Hartwell would have left, we weren't able to bring in another coach at this time, because again, funding has not been there for us to really have. And then, you know, when we get monies, we definitely have to find ways to pay our debt. I want to say that we have been getting assistance from our international body, the UCI, who have been helping in terms of solidarity funding to run programs. That's how I'm able to run my camp and those different areas, because they do fund some of the development programs that we would want to have. Okay. So that has assisted us so far in being able to run some of the programs.
But the debt you spoke about is something that you inherited.
Yes.
It came about through what?
In 2017, no. In 2017, we hosted a Pan American cycling championship here in Trinidad, an elite Pan Am championship, and we didn't get the sponsorship as they would have liked. That would have then left the federation in a debt situation. Okay.
So it was the first time we held such a major event?
In 2016 we had the juniors, Pan Ams.
But
2017 we had the elite.
And the funding from that you are supposed to generate locally?
Yes. So they would have initially hoped to have the full funding come from, most of the funding come from the government, subventions and stuff. That didn't happen, and they didn't get as much sponsors, corporate sponsorship to come on board. So that, caused a definite...
So that would have brought in a lot of athletes from...
All over the Pan American region.
Yeah, Pan American Games,
region, yes. And, it left us $1 million debt.
I mean, I could understand wanting to host an event of that nature because it's something you want to. If you have to develop the sports, you have to expose the athletes, you have to expose the public to what it is. And just as we say, we have CPL, just as we recently had the T20 and one-day cricket and so on, it's something that you will always want to do because it's exposure. And you would think that an event like that, given the fact that the Cycling Federation decided to have it, you would have gotten the support that you want from government because it's also tourism. And we talk about sports tourism in Trinidad, but we do ever really act on it, It's always like a word that's out there, sports tourism. And then you have a major event like that, which I'm sure is broadcast to the Pan American nations. So it's up for you to portray Trinidad on a good footing. And yet you come afterwards at a debt and you're still struggling. But have you approached the sports TT or the government too?
Yeah, we have had discussions who have indicated, they can't go back to those, they wouldn't help pay off those debts, so we have to find the ways to get the money to pay off those debts. So, we have to host events to have the monies to pay off the debts. 2020 and 2021 with the COVID didn't help.
Nope.
It even made it worse, actually.
Of course.
So that I really have to work hard over the next few years to try and put on some other events that will bring in the income that will help us to bring down the debt.
I mean, it's between a rock and a hard place because you have to pay off the debt, but in order to pay off the debt, you have to finance other events. And if you can host another international event of that nature, it means that there's exposure, there are athletes coming in. You'd hope that the sponsors will come on board and see. And I mean, we're in a good place right now. We now have 3 medals from the Commonwealth Games. We have some excellent performances. So you'd hope that if you decide to hold another event, another major event, you will get the support and probably be able to earn some extra income that could help you to really move the sports forward because it's really tough. What's the approximate cost to cyclists for, let's start with juniors with a bike, gears and so on before reach to
bike. Well, whether they're in juniors or otherwise, the cost of the bike is 20,000 plus. So you're talking about just a parent. When you talk about cycling, we have to be cautious. When we tell a parent, you'd like your child to cycle, and they have to get the cycling shoes, which is just as expensive, and then the bike, and then the clothes, because the cycle shorts and the top and those things they're not cheap either.
So you talk about the junior championship coming up.
The youths, yes.
So if a child participates in that, let's say, and decides they are in cycling and they're going to participate, about what's the cost to the parent for that?
Well, those children, we allow them to come with different bikes. We don't let them specialize.
Yeah.
So those youths, and it's from under 7, under 9, under 11, under 13. So you're talking about from the age of 5 to 12. This youth championship is, and we allow them to ride with any type of bike that they have within their size. They just have gear restrictions on them. But when they come out of that youth development is when they get into, so from the age of 13 and going upward is when they start to get into that. Once you start to move
to regional tournaments,
you get into the other areas, yes. So what we do is we try to keep these youths, the championship, because it's a youth championship, and we give them events that are Olympic type events. We want them to have fun. So it's really to encourage them to have fun in the sport before they actually get into the serious part of it. So that is really why we try to encourage the youths and to give them the day by themselves. Because sometimes we have competition and we have the youths and the elites and everybody, and they lost. But if we give them the events by themselves, they have.
So once you move up, let's say, and you decide to take up cycling and you decide to compete, let's say in the Pan Am Games, it means that you step up in terms of cost. And an athlete, for that athlete, then probably
you're talking 40,000 going up the road, because the wheels alone, a pair of wheels is $20,000, $25,000. You're talking about whether it's a disc wheel, a 5-spoke, different types of wheels, different types of track. The tires alone is expensive. If it's a board track, it's a concrete track, you have to know the different type of tires that you have to use on these. And it's all the dynamics would be all different. Just the uniform wear. Now, I mean, the uniform, and I can just say, the uniform that Nicholas wore for the Olympics, specially made. It's over $20,000 for that. Specially made just to help in terms of the aerodynamics.
That's right. Aerodynamics, very important.
For him to execute the way he wants to. So cycling is a very expensive sport, and we need to know.
So for example, for the Commonwealth Games, for him to just participate, there's probably about $100,000.
Close.
Because we're talking about clothes, we're talking and he's
shoes,
doing different events.
And he did different events,
so
the handlebars, all the different things that will give him the opportunity to execute.
Because the bike has to be different, the rims, as you mentioned. The one I didn't realize was the shoes, that it's a particular shoe.
So sometimes depending on the event, so for instance for sprint, the kilo event that he would have had to take off out of the starting gate, he would try to put on his to use not just the cleats but strap on, so that he able to push off, whereas some events he will just clip on, depending. So the power of the bike, making sure that his foot doesn't come out the clip, so as you see in the picture, doesn't come out of the pedal, and gives him the opportunity to continue going.
Very strange. Just now we say we don't have a national coach.
Yeah.
But we do have coaches working with our clubs.
Yes.
And then we do have some coaches working with our national athletes.
Yeah. So what we have always traditionally have is when we have teams going out, we would select a coach to go with the teams, but not necessarily a coach who's, well, the coach will work with his national team until they go and they come back. But not the ideal situation, because when we had the national coach here, we had a program running where we would have, we had a pool running, and the national team, they would have been selected based on trials that we would have had, do certain times, and they'll get into the pool, and the pool will work with the national coach. And then the national coach will provide feedback as to the cyclists that will get selected to go out to the international events. With the departure of Aaron Hartwell in 2020, early 2020, it was, that he left, that sort of broke the momentum, because Nicholas, we had 5 cyclists under him that were preparing for the Olympics, and of course that momentum broke. And luckily, Nicholas and Kwesi Brown were able to go to the UCI school and work under Nicholas' current coach, who is Craig McLean, in the UCI school. And I think they were lucky to have that to be able to get into the Olympics and perform still at the highest level.
So basically they have been able, for example, Nicholas, to fund his own coaching.
Yes, but through the elite funding that they get, because they do get elite funding.
Yeah, I know that.
So that they're able to pay for their coaching and accommodation and meals and stuff.
Okay. But even that, you wonder if it's enough, because when you look at the cost involved.
Yeah, it's quite exorbitant.
Coach.
Yes.
So it's something that, I mean, you do have a lot on your plate. You need to get the track in Tobago.
Yes.
You need to get
and we would have been talking facilities, and yes, is one of the things that we're working on is getting the cycling center as a satellite center.
Yeah.
And reason being is to avoid the cyclists having to go outside and having to spend that money when they can have when we have the facility here. We have the Olympic size facility, everything we have here. We just need to make it useful to us and give the cyclists the opportunity to stay home and train and get to the best that they can be to be able to execute our
Exactly, because you want to be able, when you leave home, to be of a standard that you can compete internationally.
Correct.
And just the extra exposure, what takes you to that level to bring us the gold medals and silver medals and so on.
Yes.
So it has been an interesting discussion. I'm sure you would have learned a lot. I encourage you to pull out the old bag that you have somewhere, the humble or hiding somewhere wrong. Let's start back cycling Trinidad and Tobago. You know, it's not easy to learn to ride. It's something that is a skill you have to develop to balance on two wheels. You start with tricycles and then you move on to bicycle. And I never forget, you know, I learned to ride by a cousin of mine, probably age 7 or something. And it was, they live on an incline. So I jumped on the bike and I used to ride down the hill, and I learned to pedal after a while. I was fortunate I didn't get much bruises. I'm sure if you see cyclists, they have bruises all about. I must tell you this, my one accident was that I ran into a bull. So I rode down the street and the bull was in the road and I ran into the bull. So I not only had to get up and pick myself up and look at it, I get damaged, I had to run from the bull too. So cycling is something that it's fun. I remember my daughter learned to ride, and where we live in the roadway, I used to run with her. Eventually, from when we took off the balance, we'd run with her and I release her, and then she'd catch herself going by herself, and then she'd pick up.
Yes.
So
that's how we all started, I think.
Yeah. So it's a lot of fun. I encourage you. Thank you, Ms. Williams, for being with us here tonight on IETV. It was a great discussion. I hope that that you will find some sponsors willing to come on board in terms of the development, in terms of taking our athletes, giving them what is necessary for them to perform on a world stage. You cannot go to perform on a world stage if you have thoughts about where I'm staying. If I damage one wheel, I don't have a next one, but I go into the Olympics, but I have one wheel only. I don't have 2 or 3 like the other athletes from around the world. That if they crash a bike, they just park that aside and see their sponsor run, come out a brand new bike and give them, and they jump and they go on and they go on again, like what happens in the Tour de France and so on. So we need to get our athletes there. I mean, it's a difficult road. As I said, our government needs to realize that we have to develop our people. We need holistic development, and sports is a major part of it. If you want to create a good citizen, involving them in sports is a major, major part in that development of a good citizen and a safe nation. Because when we don't involve them, that is why they have a lot of spare time to get involved in things that we don't want them to do. So I encourage you out there, come out, support our Cycling Federation, reach out to the Federation through Facebook and the media. They are based at the Couva at the Atobolo Stadium. You can contact them there and provide assistance to the parents who are listening. Get your kids involved in cycling. Let's go back to cycling. And we know it's something you'll be worried about, but our drivers and so on have to realize that we have to share the road. So thank you very much for looking on. Thank you to Lazare and Samson Travel Service again for your sponsorship. We truly appreciate it. Do have a pleasant good evening, and see you back next week Thursday on our ieSPORTS Digest.